everybody. Welcome to Grounded Roots Healing. I'm Jason. I'm an alchemist, a grid worker, as well as, well, we all are those things. Starting to realize that their labels are just that. They're labels. They don't mean anything. And there is no separation. I mean, I already practically knew that, but the exact nature of it is becoming apparent. So I've had a hell of a day. The energies right now are wild. They're wild. There is the Schumann resonance. I don't know if anyone's heard of that. And it's absolutely, I mean, you can just feel it. Solar flares. I'm not sure what's happening with the solar flares, but I suspect there's something going on. Plus we have a full moon coming, which is always difficult for me. Difficult's a strong word. It always forces the issue. Forces me to deal with unresolved things, as well as any of this stuff does. It's all increasing the frequency, vibrational frequency of you. And if it's doing that, anything that is of lower vibrational nature cannot stay, and it gets drudged up. If you haven't dealt with it voluntarily, let's say, you will. So it got me thinking about things because I quit drinking coffee due to my friend Christy. She decided to do that and replace it with cacao, some ceremonial cacao. So I saw her doing it, and of course I had to try it, and I've always had trouble sleeping. Which, in part is due to autism. It's also in part due to the SA that I was exposed to as a child. And probably some other things. Like I often thought that maybe I was just the kind of person that stayed up late, because I've been like this forever. And like my youngest son, who's also like me, autistic, he has sleeping problems as well. So, I mean, it depends on which level you look at it, right? So I gave up coffee. That's a long story short. And I started replacing it with cacao. Now, coffee's a stimulant. Cacao, it will open your heart center. That's basically what it does. You get relaxed, and it will open this thing up. And you feel the feels. Now that combined with everything else I just described is made for a harrowing day. You're grumpy because I'm giving up an addiction. So it's another one that I'm getting rid of. One of my many addictions. And replacing with something it's going to make you do some more shadow work. Then I started, and have been doing for about the past week, I've been doing Kriya Pranayama breath work, which is when you envision, you do a Kegel, so clench the muscles at the base, envision basically a hydraulic cylinder, a pipe, going up to the very tippy top of your head. And then as you breathe in, envision fluid moving up the pipe and going right to the top of your head. Then you hold it for 5 seconds and then release. And then you do that 7 times. Take a break, do it 7 more times. This is something that is designed to sort of prep your system get rid of all this old energy before your Kundalini rises. So it's like mini exercises to bring up this Kundalini energy. And as you do that, anything that's sitting in there, low vibrational stuff, trauma, that gets dealt with bit by bit. So I'm really hammering myself here. I'm doing that, and if you've never done it, try it. But I guarantee you, when you do it, you're going to drudge something up. So if you're willing to deal with the emotions and you want to deal with that shadow work now, it's extremely effective. And it's a good way to do it because you're doing it a bit at a time. So I've been doing that all week, which is made for a hell of a week. And then you have all this other stuff on top of it. Man, today was rough. So I started the day by, not luckily, I was by myself most of the day. That's by design, by the way. So when you get isolated like that and everybody just has an appointment or goes somewhere and you're just stuck by yourself, you can just count on something big coming. It isolates you so you don't hurt anybody else while you're going through this, right? And even after everyone came home, I had to leave. So this was bad. So it drudged up a pile of old stuff. It's clearing out our systems. This whole ascension process. I've become so attuned to it now that I can feel it. I can feel all of your energies. I can feel the fear. I can feel this stuff getting dealt with on a bigger scale than just myself. I can absolutely feel what my wife is going through as she's doing it. And she's going through some stuff too. I suspect a lot of you guys are as well. Now, this can manifest as emotional stuff, like myself, where I've just been crying all day, nonstop. Anything emotional I see on my phone or whatever I get exposed to brings tears. My wife, it's been more physical. So she's having purging issues. And this is what it is. You're just purging all energy, but depending on where it is and what kind of energy it is, it gets expelled in different forms. Okay, so for me, the essay has been the biggest challenge of my life. It's been the reason that I drank. It's been the reason that I have social issues. It's been the reason that I had a difficulty with physical contact, sexual things, a lot of anger. What other angle can I look at this from? And I've started this year, finally started to deal with this. And bit by bit, one after another, I've been looking at this nightmare from every possible angle and healing it. And there's always another angle. And this week's flavor wasn't even so much from my perspective. It was from the other people involved or who were victims, and how young they were, and the exposure to evil is to be the best way I describe it. So there's been several people in my family that this has happened to, and they were all under the age of 6. And to think that a grown adult could do that to a baby and a child like that, it's the exposure to evil like that is what really, really hurts. And I was, a few days ago, I dealt with one part of this, one of my family members who this happened to, and it welled up as like a guttural scream in the car. I could just feel the anger building in there. So your avatar, your body that has undergone this, really, a lot of times when we go through this, our soul leaves and we disassociate from the body. That's what's happening. And then but the body goes through this, the body and the mind, and it takes the trauma, and then it does all these behavioral patterns in order to keep us safe after all this stuff happens to us. So that is what we're healing. We're healing what this went through, what I went through. The soul goes through it. It sees it. But it's much more literal for the body and the mind. And you have to heal it. And you want to heal it from a place of separation. And you want to treat the body-mind complex as if it's a child. It's a person. It's not you. It's someone else who's gone through something, and you want to give them grace and respect and time. So, a lot of times we will suppress this stuff because we feel embarrassed if we were to scream at the top of our lungs and let this old energy out. Because our ego doesn't want to feel weak or doesn't want to feel like we've been hurt, doesn't want to let it out. So I have been getting better at not giving a F what anybody thinks about me in any situation. And if I have to deal with letting some of this energy out in whatever form it is, if it's tears, I'm a grown man, and if I need to cry in public, I will do this. And I won't hold it in anymore. It's been too many years of this. You can call me whatever you want. I don't give a crap. Like, if I'm not a man to you because I do that, well, you got issues. And I screamed at the top of my lungs. It came out in 2 loud screams. And it was wonderful. It feels like, the me that was affected by this and was angry for these other people, that they had to go through this, is what I was angry about, which is just another way to look at this whole situation. Had to let that out. So I let it out, and you will hear my throat. It sounds a little hoarse. Well, that's from today's issue. So the one I was more closely exposed to, and age-wise, and what I actually witnessed, I had the same reaction, where I was angry for that person, and angry for being exposed to evil, and angry that they had to be exposed to evil. So I let out that screech, and I did it in a car by myself, which is probably the best place to do it, because you can just let her go. Hurt my throat, but it had to come out. If that version of me could go back and delete that person from the simulation, he would. This body-mind complex that is Jason would absolutely want to do that. And that doesn't sound very spiritual, but that is the truth. My soul knows better. But this child that's forever had ever forever been imprinted on them, this anger at that stage is not going to be reasoned with. And it's okay for him to feel that angry. It is. It's okay for him to let that out. He needs to. And it's okay for me to give him the space to do that. So that has been my week. The last 3 days has been just a lot of this, and this is part of it. So anybody who's been through this, and there are a lot of us. I went to a class a while back, and there was a group of us there doing some stuff, some of the spiritual stuff, practices, and I was dealing with some of this trauma, letting go of some of this trauma, and I told my story as I was sobbing, and it turns out half the people there had been affected in some way by this, at least half. This essay is devastating. It's devastating for everybody involved. And the exposure to evil is what really gets it. Jordan Peterson talks about this. When you actually witness that, hurt people, but there's also narcissists and psychopaths and people who don't get hurt. They feel a sick sense of they just don't have empathy like the rest of us. And those people, depending on which level you look at this simulation from, are possessed by demons. And they're no longer running the show. You and I have these souls that inhabit these bodies and couldn't conceive of ever doing anything like that to another person. And they have a different type of soul. Let's put it that way. Doesn't feel the remorse, and exposure to that, it's what does the most damage. So, like I said, if there's anyone who's dealing with this, who's watching, there are ways to heal this. It doesn't have to be part of your life for the rest of your life. Breath work has been tremendously helpful in getting rid of this stuff and dealing with it. It isn't easy. It's a lot of work. There's no fun in this, other than the fact that you're healing, and it feels a lot better every time you deal with one of these ways of looking at this situation. So I was going to do a video about, well, I'll save it for tomorrow, but I think I'll leave it there on this subject. And big things are happening. We can't take this stuff with us. We have to deal with it. And I know a lot of people are going to be hurting over the next year, at least, when they're forced to face these things that I have been forced to face as well. And if you need any advice on the best way to handle this, at least from someone who's gone through this healing journey, I'm here, and feel free to reach out to me, and I can give you what's worked for me, and hopefully that can translate and help you guys. So yeah, I feel like I'm getting close to the end, but I've said that before, and this is the biggest challenge of my life. So quitting drinking was nothing compared to this. In fact, it was a complete consequence of healing some of this stuff. So, anyway, we'll leave it here. Like I always say, I hope this video finds you well. I love you all, and we'll see you soon.